Hi, I'm kind of new to the hobby, and I'm trying to build one of these 250 racers. Not that this is going to be used for racing, but it just looked like a fun way to go about it. Flown a couple of the ready to fly toy models, and I'm ready to kind of give this a shot. So I watched a couple videos on YouTube, and now I'm giving it a shot. That I'd record it and put it up there since I'm brand new to the sport, never flown RC stuff, never built any of this stuff. Even when I did remote control cars back in the day, I bought the ready to run stuff. So just figured I'd let you see what it looks like when someone who doesn't know what he's doing is giving it a shot. So I have built 3 of the 4 arms already using some of the information off of the internet. In particular, I think the guy is RCModelReviews. The guy's in New Zealand, really entertaining, really good video to watch. So I'm kind of using his budget build as an idea of what I'm doing. As you can see, there's the first arm I built, and that's kind of ugly. And then there's the last one I built, and it's getting a little prettier, looking a little bit more like his. So I'm not a soldering expert. I'm not a remote control car expert. I'm not a remote control airplane or anything. None of that's my bailiwick. But these things are an absolute blast to play with. So I figured let's learn how to build them. Anyway, feel free to tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'm also new to putting stuff on YouTube, so tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'm fine to hear it. I won't pout and cry. This is the motor I'm going to be using. As you saw, these are the cheap ones. I think this is listed as a cheap 250 build or entry-level 250 build. I can't remember what it is, but I've watched a couple different guys' videos on these, and it looks like something that I can do, so I'm giving it a shot. One of the things they said is when you go to hook up your ESC, which is, correct me if I'm mistaken, somebody who knows more, electronic speed control, all you do is you swap 2 wires. So I'm trying to flip it over. I didn't see anybody do that. Everyone seemed to just cross 2 wires, but every single video I've watched said if you cross 2 wires, it doesn't matter which 2, it will change it from going clockwise to counterclockwise or vice versa. So I'm just mounting it upside down because that should be the black and the red being reversed. Hopefully I don't blow stuff up, but things are cheap enough, and I have enough time to go back and redo it if that's the case. So pull the motor out of here. Maybe I can pull the motor out of here. And here's all the mounting stuff. Boy, that's a pain in the butt to get open. Alright, so my understanding is you don't want to use these little nuts to put your props on with anyhow, because they'll back themselves off while you're flying. Saw a couple tips to go and get them replaced with the nuts with the little nylon in it. Pick those up at Home Depot. So I'm not going to use the little nuts, but I am going to use, obviously, the mount. So there's a couple different sizes of hex screws here. You want to use the short ones because the long one will poke down into the motor there and cause a problem with it. So you just get 4 of those short ones off of there. They all look to be about the same size. And then we want 4 of the long ones for mounting this to the arm. There's extra stuff in here. Not really sure what that's for, but I'm just throwing them in a little container up here on my workbench. So let's get 4 of the long ones here. And the rest of these I'll set aside. So I've got 4 long ones to go into the bottom of the motor to mount it to the arm. I'll put those there. Loctite, very cheap. Cheap insurance. I'm probably going to use it on damn near every bolt that goes into this, every bolt and screw. I understand some of it probably won't need it, but it's very, very cheap insurance to make sure stuff doesn't back out. And if I need to take it out, it really doesn't make it much more difficult to pull it out. So why not, right? I mean, if you can come up with a good reason not to use it, feel free to post it up to me. I have no claim on being an expert on any of this. So we're going to start with our small ones. And just put it on here. Get some of that Loctite on there. Slip it through slip it in through there. Actually, I wiped a bunch of Loctite off there, so very easy on the first one to put more on. Slap it into the hole here. And just till it starts to bite. Certainly not tight on there. The only reason I'm using the driver for it, or the wrench, is because I have a hell of a time holding these little things. So back in it, get a little turn on there so that it's in. Do that 4 times. If I get going too long on something, you'll forgive me. I'll just cut parts, because if I showed you how to put 1 screw in, I don't need to show you how to do all 4, which is why I'm doing the 4th arm that I'm building and not all 4 of them, because it's just a repeat of the same procedure. And if I'm wrong, tell me. I'll go back and edit this, or put a note over top of it saying, hey, what you're seeing here is the wrong way to do it. Don't do it that way. Help somebody else out if you know what you're doing. Alright. I'm in the middle of rural Nevada, so I don't have a hobby shop or anybody here that can help me out. I don't know anybody who's in the hobby, so pretty much dependent on the internet. And the guy who does that RC Models channel, RC Model Reviews out of New Zealand, I found him entertaining and knowledgeable, so hopefully I wasn't duped. Hopefully he's as smart as he comes off on his channel. But if not, there's no recourses anyhow. So now I'm going to mount this onto the base, or onto the arm. The first one I mounted, I had to take off because I wasn't paying attention where the wires were. So as a rookie, I'm telling other rookies out there, make sure your wires are coming down this way before you mount it on, because I mounted it on and then realized my wires were sticking off to the side like that, and that is no good. Line up my holes a little here. Get a little bit of Loctite on it. And again, I'm not tightening anything down, I'm just putting it on there right now. And we go across every time we do. I'm probably putting more Loctite on there than I need, but I don't care, because if someone knows what bad thing is going to happen out of using too much Loctite, let me know. I don't know of any. It feels like there's too much resistance. I don't want to strip it out because it is aluminum here. And I'm not sure why that's giving me resistance right off the bat, so I'm going to move on to another screw and see if it gives me resistance here. Maybe. My big fat fingers can do this. Alright, we'll be editing some of this out, I'm sure. Alright, so let's try again. Big fat fingers. Little tiny screw. Blue Loctite. Oh, this one there's not the resistance on it, so I'm going to try that other screw in the opposite side anyhow, because sometimes stuff just works, you know, particularly when you're dealing with cheaper parts, you end up with more wiggle room in the tolerances, so sometimes you have the threads on the screw a little bit too small and the threads on the motor a little too big, and they just don't work together, but it'll work somewhere else. No, that's that screw. I'm getting resistance already. I'm not going to do that. And they give you extra screws anyhow, so we're just going to grab a new screw. Make sure I got a long one again. Get a little Loctite on it. And we'll get it. Well, maybe it'll go in. Come on, you rat. Oh, excuse me. I swear to you, the other 3 arms I didn't have this problem. They went lickety-split together. So, of course, when you turn the camera on, you run into the problem. So let's see what we can do. I'll be darned. That does not want to help me go in there. Oh, there we go. I feel it bite there and it's not grabbing too bad, so we'll just go ahead and tighten this a little bit. And then we'll center our shaft, the shaft right there. Get it close so it's eyeball centered in there. And we'll start tightening these down. Again, it's aluminum, so, and we're using Loctite, so I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on them. Just till it pulls the motor up against it and puts a little pressure on. And we are using the blue Loctite if I have anybody out there who's never used Loctite before. If you ever want to take a screw out again, you got to use the blue. You do the red and you're likely not to be able to get it back out. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll go across and tighten these down. And one. Sorry, I got a little sniffles. Springtime here in rural Nevada, and that means stuff in the air. If you live in a place that has a club that that does these, I noticed over in Salt Lake when I'm checking the internet, they have a club that hosts builds and repair wear shops and stuff like that, so that you can get a little bit of help. I would totally go to one of those, but it's hours of drive to me. There is an RC club here where I am, but I went to their webpage and they seem to be very anti-drone or quadcopter or anything like that, so I don't know that they're going to be a great resource for me. So, something I did on here before we started up is I marked where the landing gear goes, and I marked where the frame goes. I don't know if you can see on there, there's just a little marker across. So I know my ESC has to fit in between those two marks. So that way I'm not having to reposition it when it comes time to mount this to the frame. So let's move that aside. And we'll grab our ESC here out of the bag. Again, this is all cheap stuff. It was this is these are the pieces parts that were recommended on what is it called? It's called RCModelReviews. It's a gentleman out of New Zealand. Really, like I said, entertaining. Look him up. Watching his videos are the reason I thought I might be able to accomplish this. One side has a special connector on it. The other side just have these bullet plugs we're going to cut off. We don't want to cut that connector off. At least I don't think so. So be careful with it. Based on several guys' recommendations on YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and trim this stuff back so I have a little more wire room to deal with. And we're going to put heat shrink over top of it anyhow, so it doesn't really matter. I guess some people just go ahead and pull the wires off altogether and then solder straight onto the ESC. But I am not an experienced solderer, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to go ahead and solder on the wires so I have a backup plan if I screw stuff up. And I did purchase extra parts, so I have an extra ESC and I have an extra motor here just in case I do fry things up. But if I screw up more than one, I'm going to be ordering and waiting for these things to arrive in the mail again. Alright, so I've cut those back. And this is going to go no closer than that. So what I'm going to do is right about where the landing gear is, just past the landing gear there, I'm going to cut the wires. And my wire snips aren't great, but they'll do. Nope. Probably got that out of camera, sorry. Told you, I'm new to this. So, you're going to see lots of mistakes. But I'll share my mistakes. Maybe you won't make mistakes. There we go. There we go. And there we go. And like I said before, the videos I said you can do them as long as 2 are crossed, you're good. So, I'm just mounting... I mounted 2 of them so it was like this, so that the blue wire went to the black. The black wire went to the yellow and the red wire went to the red, and then I'm mounting 3 of them so that it's upside down so that the red and the black wires, the red wire and the blue wire will go together, and the black wire and the red, and the yellow will still stay on the black. And I don't know, that's just the way it was explained in the videos, so we'll see if it works. Oh yeah, I gotta cut these. So let's cut these off just past here. And I'm going to grab some wire strippers. And these strip very, very easily. And I'll do the same thing here to my ESC. Hopefully I kept that, keeping this in camera, at least some. Alright, and while I'm doing this, my soldering iron's been warming up a bit. Just going to take these, give it a little twist so that all the wires go into one good wire. And then, depending on who you are or which video, it's either tinning or tining or tuning, or I'm gonna put some solder on the ends of these connections. Again, if I'm doing something wrong, tell me I'm doing it wrong. If you got a better way to do it, feel free to tell me about it. I'm not representing myself as any kind of an expert. I just figured if I can show how I did it and get myself some help from the community and maybe help somebody else do it better, then it's worth filming it and putting it out there. And trying something, looking for a hobby. So, we're going to start heating up that piece of wire that's there. And putting a little solder down on it. Maybe. There we go. Same thing here. Heat up the bottom first. Flip it over and make sure there's solder on both sides. Oh, and one of the things that seems to be very polarizing on the websites I visited, from what I gathered, you really want to use the lead-based solder. And not having a hobby shop here, I had to order some stuff because all I have is a Home Depot, and they had some really thick. Matter of fact, I think I have some in the drawer here. This is what they were offering as lead core solder, which is really kind of thick. It didn't look like it went with the wires. So even though I have some of that, I ordered some of the finer stuff. If that's not necessary, feel free to tell me. But I have some of the finer stuff now anyhow. I think this is 0.8. 0.8 is what I ended up ordering. Gotta have the soda pop. And now I'm going to do the same thing for this. I found this was hard because the landing gear doesn't come off of there. Or if it does, I don't know how to get it off, and I didn't want to break it unnecessarily. Although from everything I've read and seen, this thing's going to break anyhow. And I've been pretty hard on the toy quad I have, so I don't expect them going to be particularly easy. Anyway, to make it easier, I just go ahead and stick it in here. Made myself a little rig out of my tools so that it'll hold it straight up and down, because otherwise you were dealing with it sideways and I was having all kinds of issues. So maybe that's helpful for somebody. Alright, we'll do the same thing to these wires. Go ahead and get down here and get them a little warmed up on the bottom. And then start putting some solder on them. By the way, feel free to leave any comments about anything, but try and be helpful. Tell me I'm an idiot. I know I'm an idiot. There's not much I can do about that. That's genetic. Telling me what I did that was idiotic is a little more helpful for me. That one looked pretty nice, huh? I'm proud of myself. That's right, I'm proud of myself because I put solder on a piece of wire and it looked pretty. Doesn't take much. Alright, so I got enough solder on there, I think. So now what I'm going to do is, this is one of the ones that's going to go upside down, because I already did two of them right side up. So it'll be upside down, which should flip-flop two wires, because two of them will be soldered so black and red go together and red and blue go together, and two of them will be soldered so that red and red go together and black and blue. If I'm doing it wrong, tell me before I power this thing up and catch stuff on fire. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that know more than I do. Oh, first things first, I have to slip some heat shrink over this. And what works better than that is scissors. I have a pair of scissors right here. What I'm using for the heat shrink is, let me tell you what size I'm using here. I just grabbed it until it looked right. The stuff I'm using is 3.5 by 40 millimeter. Seems to work. It shrunk down nicely, so there we go. Alright, so there's one piece, two pieces, and three pieces. I've had trouble with this. I've had to redo a couple joints because when I get done soldering the joints together, the connections together, my heat shrink has heat shrunk, and then I can't move it down, so I have to unsolder and resolder to make it so that I can cover it up. I don't see anybody using electrical tape, but I don't know if there's a reason you couldn't just wrap it in electrical tape, particularly considering that you have heat shrink here that you could just make large enough to cover that. Well, I guess that'd get in the way of the landing gear again, so. But you could move the whole thing down a little bit so that you got it under. But I don't know. I'm trying stuff. Tell me. Alrighty. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip this around this way for me, because I'm a righty. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these connections together, heat up the solder hopefully, let them flow. one flowed together. Again, if I'm doing something wrong, or even if it's not wrong and you've got a better way, tell me, post it. I don't care. I am not an expert. I'm just trying to build a model and have a little fun. Oh, see, I forgot my heat shrink there. Someone should have told me there. Speak up, guys. Boy, that is a ragged bit of solder on there. Let's see if we can make it a little better. So my heat shrink doesn't, because this stuff will shrink when it hits the hot soldering section. I've done that again, or I've done that before too, where I slide that on too soon after tinning or tining, whichever it is, and immediately the heat shrink is heat shrunk, and that melted together nicely. So we're going to put this on here, and then give it a go again. Oh, see that? My heat shrunk on that one. So I'm going to cut that off. Oh, don't need to cut it off. But see that? The heat shrunk. It's supposed to be that big. It's already that big. I wouldn't have been able to slide it over the connection when I'm done. So I'll cut me off another little piece here and go at it again. And let's give it another shot. Hopefully my big bulbous head isn't getting into the screen here. Come on, and I'm getting it too hot. The heat shrink is heat shrunking again. Dang it, what am I doing wrong? Somebody tell me. Somebody knows. Somebody is at home watching this video right now going, that moron. This is what he's doing wrong. So, you can add the moron part, but tell me what I'm doing wrong or that I could be doing better too, please. Please, thank you. So, we're back to needing another piece of heat shrink tube. These other guys make it look easy, and they've probably been building models for years and flying, and experts are generally better at it than us new guys. So, or maybe I'm just incompetent. I don't know. Maybe it is easy and I'm just stupid. I mean, I know I'm stupid, but maybe that's the only reason I'm not getting it, instead of just one reason. So, it's all heat shrunked up. I'm going to move this up there, move this one up here. There, probably got my head in shot there, sorry. Use the pliers to get it up there. And now make sure that we're covering our solder sections. Okay, it looks like it's covering. So I grab my handy dandy little heat gun. And give it a nice shot of the heat. Flipping it over. Make sure that my entire solder joint is covered there so that we don't have anything that leads a potential short out. And there's what I have there. So I'm just going to push those in a little bit. Now, maybe I'm too clever for my own good, or not half as clever as I think I am. I'm not going to be flying. I'm not going to be jumping right into the video. I don't have the money, so what I'm doing is on the back arms, I'm using yellow heat shrink, and I put some yellow tape on the back of the quad, so hopefully when the thing's up in the air I can distinguish between front and back more easily, more readily. So I'm using yellow heat shrink on this one. The other one with yellow heat shrink on it was wired straight up, so this one's being wired upside down. Not sure whether that's going to be the right side or the left side of the quad yet, but it'll be one side of the quad. Obviously. And I'll end up with a yellow arm on each side. So I just slide that yellow heat shrink up over top of there to make it all nice and pretty. Turn this on. Shrink it all up. And unless I misunderstood something, skipped something, or just flat forgot something, that should be an arm build. Do that 4 times. One thing the model review guy didn't use was he didn't use a ready-made power distribution board. I'm using a power distribution board because he said several times it would make it easier. So when we end up putting these together, these will go on the underside here. These two will be back. These two will be front. And I'll figure out which one's supposed to go which way. And so when we're flying out in the park, it should look something like that from the rear, and hopefully that's enough of a color change that I can identify it out in the sun and be able to tell which way the quadcopter is running. But these things tilt enough, and the guys flying them that I've seen flying them are usually flying in a forward motion all the time, that it's usually pretty easy to tell which way you're going. That's all for today. When I get down to adding some more stuff on and connecting some more connections up, I'll see if I can make another video. Let me know what you think. Bye.